Hey guys, welcome back everybody. So today we're going to talk about the CCNP concentration paper. This paper is very important if you are looking for the CCNP Enterprise certification. So CCNP Enterprise certification contains the two major paper. One is the ENCO, and there's a lot of concentration paper. You need to pick any one of them. So if you need a CCNP certification, if you're planning for the CCIE Enterprise, in that case, you don't need to give the concentration paper. You just need to give the CCNP and core paper. That's all, and you can good to go and go for the lab exam. Concentration paper is optional for you. But if you're looking for the CCNP Enterprise certification only, then the concentration paper is a mandatory over here. Now, there's a lot of concentration paper over here. Most of the time, what happens, people get confused over it. Which one should I pick? So let me tell you that if you're a fresher, right, then you should go with the 30410. That's an ENARSI paper. We can call this guys implementing Cisco Enterprise Advanced Routing and Services. But if you're experienced, right, then you have to go with the SD-WAN paper 30415, right? This is the recommendation for the experienced people. But if you are not belongs to the routing and switching department, then you can have the option of the automation as well and the design as well. You can pick any one of them. But fresher, it is a recommendation to go with this one, NRC, and experience, you can go with the SD-WAN as well. This concentration paper, if you see that, this cost is a $300 USD, and you have to give the taxes as well. We are in India. And then you have an exam for the 90 minutes. Then you can give this exam on an online and the Pearson Center as well. Now let's explore what are the topics we have and how we can prepare for this exam. So if you want to click on the view exam topic, right, this is the NRC version 1.1, and this paper is a 90 minutes of the paper. That's going to contain the 4 modules. One, we have a layer 3 modules, layer 3 technology. Second, we have a VPN technology. The third, we have a infrastructure security, and the fourth, we have a infrastructure services. The layer 3 technology has a lot of weightage over here. That's a 35% only for the layer 3 technology. VPN has a 20%, right? Infra has a 20%, and services we have a 25%. If I look for the layer 3 technologies, we have a how we can configure the routing protocols like OSPF, EGRP, and BGP, how we can apply the authentication for that routing protocol, how we can do the route manipulation and route filtering as well. What are the mechanism that you can use to prevent the loop in the routing protocols? Like you have a tagging way, that's advanced level of preventing the loop and the split Trojan as well. Then after that, we have a concept of how we can do the route summarization, like automatic summarization and the manual summarization. Then we have a policy-based routing, also known as a source-based routing, and the VRF Lite, right? So these are the very important topic for the routing protocol perspective. Once we have done this thing, then you have amazing technologies we have over here. That's called the BFD. You have to implement the BFD protocol on all the protocols. So you have to do with the BFD with the EGRP, OSPF, BGP. The good part, you can also run the BFD protocol for the static route. Now, once you have done this part, then you have to go with the EGRP protocol. So in the EGRP, we need to go through that IPv4 and IPv6, right? Then you have to understand whatever the neighborship criteria of the EGRP. Of course, the RD, FD, FC, the successor, feasible successor, stuck inactive. These are the important terminology for the EGRP. Now, once we have done this thing, then we have to go with the EGRP stub concept, the load balancing, equal and unequal, and the metric of the EGRP, the K values you can call it. So these EGRP, right, contain a lot of topic, including the name mode, right? So name mode is a advanced version of the classic mode, right? Then we have a troubleshooting of the OSPF protocol, the version 2 and version 3. Version 2 is totally dedicated for the IPv4. Version 3, you can go with the V4 and V6 both. So same thing, like the neighborship criteria, neighbor relationship, the types of LSAs we have, whatever the types of areas we have, like a backbone area, normal area, transit area, stub area, totally stub, NSA and totally NSA area, whatever the types of router we have, like an internal router, ASP router, backbone router, ABI router, these are things that we are going to talk about in the OSPF protocol. Then if you want to connect the, backbone area to the non-backbone area, then you need to use the concept of the virtual link, and the most important, the path preference. The path preference is simply going to tell you that O route is more preferred than the OIA route, E1 is more preferred than the E2 route, and the N1 is more preferred than the N2 route. So these Now, these things we are going to talk about in the OSPF routing protocol as well. These are the very important topics for the CCNP candidate. Then after that, we have a BGP protocol. The BGP will talk about the internal and external. Internal means simply IBGP. External means eBGP. Once we have done this part, then we have our concept, how we can apply the authentication, how we can do the 4-byte of AS number and the private AS number as well, right? How we can improve the performance of the, devices if you're gonna, once you're gonna enable the BGP with the help of peer group, right? So peer group is an amazing feature that's gonna improve the router performance and reduce the line of configuration on the router side. Once you have done this thing, then you have a concept of the route reflector, right? And of course, you don't have a, you have a configuration and of course the dynamic peer group as well. So previously it was not there. So now in the newer, version, not newer version, in the CCNP ENARSI, we have a dynamic peer group as well. Then after that, we have our inbound and outbound filtering and path manipulation with the help of path attributes. So BGP has a lot of topics over here, right? So if you compare with the older one, right? So older one doesn't have many of the things like a 4-byte of AS number was not there, private AS number was not there, right? Like configuration was not there, but now we have all these topics. Once you have done with this 35% of the layer-free technology, we have a VPN technology. This VPN technology has a 20% that's going to contain the MPLS L3 VPN. Now, here you need to understand one thing. The MPLS L3 VPN, we have just a described operation right now, like how the LSR work, how the LDP is working, how the LSP is working, how the label switching is working. Describe the MPLS L3 VPN like a RD, RT concept, how the layer 3 VPN is working, what is the difference between the peer-to-peer model and overlay model. And then you have to configure the DM VPN with a single hub. So we'll talk about the DM VPN phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 as well. So in the CCNP and ENARSI, you do not have a lab of the MPLS L3 VPN, but you do have a lab for the MPLS unicast. So DM VPN is a clear text VPN, right? And if you want to enable the authentication on the DM VPN, then you have to go with the IPsec protocol, right? Once you have done with the VPN technologies, then you have a next option, 20% is infra security. Same like that encode paper, right? In the encode also we have a AAA, TACX and radius. Then you have a concept of the IPv4 access list. So based on the ACL, you can also improve the security of your network, like a standard ACL, and time-based ACL. Then you have a IPv6 traffic filter and the most important, the URPF. Right, so URPF you can deploy in the loose mode and the strict mode as well. There's a many, what do we call? There's a many options you have in the URPF. If you're going to use the loose mode and when you're going to apply the strict mode, at the same time, you have a concept of the default route in the URPF as well. Then after that, you have a concept of the group, right? Then you can enable the control plane policing for all these routing protocol. So control plane policing is the very important topic for the CCNP and CCIE Enterprise. Not even the enterprise, even the data center and the security perspective as well. Right. Then after that, we have a IPv6 RA guard, like how you can enable the IPv6 security in your IPv6 environment, like a DSCP guard, ND snooping, ND inspection, right? And then source guard you can enable in the IPv6. Once we have done with this 3.0 section infrastructure security, then after that, we have a infrastructure services over here. In the infrastructure services, we'll talk about how you can access the devices like a router and switches through the console and the VTY. The VTY giving you the option of the SSH and telnet. Then you have a option of the HTTP and HTTPS as well. Then we have a talk about the FTP protocol. Then we'll talk about the troubleshooting of the SNMP version 2 and 3. Then we'll talk about how we can troubleshoot the syslog and the debug, conditional debug as well. Right. Conditional debug is a very, very important topic for the production network perspective. So in production, what happened, it's not recommendation to directly enable the debug. It's better to enable the conditional debug with the help of ACL. Then once you have done this thing, then you have an option of the troubleshooting the DHCP, right? How you can perform the troubleshooting of the DHCP. So sometimes what happened, let's example, this is the DHCP server we have, and so the switch right now, right? So this DHCP server, is gonna allocate the IP addresses to this user, right? So there's a many reasons, right, that your PC will not get the IP address, right? Maybe your trunk link is working good, but the VLAN is not allowed, right? Maybe the port security is over here. Maybe the wrong what we call DHCP pool mapping is configured, right? Sometimes what happens if your DHCP server is put in a different broadcast domain, so you don't have eligibility. So that troubleshooting you have to do in the ENARSI. Then also we'll talk about the concept of the DHCP rule agent and DHCP option, right? DHCP snooping also going to talk about over here. Then once we have done this thing, then we'll talk about the how you can enable the IPSLA, right? IPSLA is a very, very important topic, right? So based on the IPSLA, what happened, you can track the interface and track the route as well. Now, these things you do implement in the DMVPN scenario as well, right? To track the hub and spoke. Once you have done this thing, then you have a concept of the net flow, right? How you can perform the troubleshooting on the net flow. Then you have to troubleshoot the, Catalyst DNA center as well. So this is the part of the SDXs. So if you comparison with your Encore, right, in the Encore, Encore, in an Encore, what happened, you had a multicasting and the quality of services. In NRC, you don't have these things. In a Encore, you had a SD-WAN and a lot of SDXs as well. But here what happened, you don't have SD-WAN, but you do have some troubleshooting of the DNA center, that's SDA, right? So these are the major differences happening between the Encore and NRC. The same, again, I'm repeating the same thing. If there's a two guy over here, right? So let's example, this is the A, and A has a plan to only take a CCNP certificate, then he has to give the Encore paper, and he has to give the NRC as well. Any one of the concentration paper, I'm taking example of the NRC. You can also take the SD-WAN as well. As I suggested, if you are experienced, go with the SD-WAN. But if you're not interested in the SD-WAN and the NRC, if you love the automation, right, then you have to go with the automation concentration as well. We do have it. So in that case, what happened, because he has a plan for the CCNP only, then he has to give the Encore plus NRC paper. Then he will get the CCNP certificate from the Cisco side. But let's example, there's a guy over here, the B, and the B has a plan to take a CCIE exam. Then he has to give the Encore paper, and directly he will jump to the CCIE lab exam. So for the B, right, it's not a mandatory to give the concentration paper. If he has the money and if they have a plan, then he can give it, but it's optional for the B. So this is all about the syllabus you have. Now you can refer the Cisco Press book for the preparation for this particular one, but make sure that you should prepare all the topic before appearing the exam. And the time is very, very important because you don't have a lot of time in the examination. So sometimes what happens, make sure that, so not always, but sometimes what happens, you get some, lab papers, lab questions as well, right? But not most of the time. Sometimes what happens is go put the lab questions, but mostly 80 to 90% of the time, what happens, you will get the objective questions only. Feel free to put the questions in the comment section, right? If you need any other information. Thank you so much, guys.